All right, if I could bring this meeting to order, please. The first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance, and Brad Holly is going to lead us. If you'll come forward here, Brad. And all stand, please. Now you're ready, man.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Brad. If you just kind of sit right up here for a moment, we'll continue on this. I'm going to take just a moment off of the agenda here and speak for the entire board and the entire staff of the town of Zebulon. We're all aware that Ann passed away this past Saturday, and I think probably I speak for the board again in saying that we all have special thoughts and prayers for Mayor Bob and the entire Matheny family. So I would like for us to pause for just a moment and have a moment of silence in remembrance of Ann. Thank you. Okay, continuing on, I need a motion to approve the agenda unless you have a change.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second? Any discussion at all? If not, show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to now do the school recognition of that young gentleman that stood here and did the Pledge of Allegiance. And Brad, hang on just a second. I'm coming. We have this presentation each and every month, but I don't think we've ever had two distinguished people that have all this much clout behind them. But anyway, I'm going to read this. This is Brad Holly. He is the student body president of East Wake High School. He is also the HOSA chapter treasurer for Wake County Public School System district voting delegate for the Student Government Association. Brad is a senior at East Wake and plans to attend Barton College and major in political science with a concentration on public affairs. He aspires to be Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Good luck, big guy. Here you are, Brad. I'll give you this again. Thank you very much. And now, make a presentation for Ms. Carissa Messina. You know, I said some nice things about Brad, but I've never made a presentation. I've never made a presentation to anyone as learned as you are, Ms. Messina. Clarissa Messina is a Spanish teacher at East Wake High School. Ms. Marissa decided to follow in her mother's footsteps and become a teacher. She earned a BA degree in bicultural education. Ms. Messina taught kindergarten at an American prep school in Puerto Rico for 13 years. Her family moved to North Carolina in 1989, and she worked for the Nash Rocky Mount School System until 1995, where she taught Spanish to elementary, middle, and high school students during the school year and English as a second language in summer school. From 1995 to the present, Ms. Messina is teaching Spanish at East Wake. While there in 2010, she received her interpreter for She received her interpreter for the Wake County Office of Translation and Interpretation. East Wake is her community school, and all three of her children graduated from there. They all attended well-known schools, West Point, UNC, and NC State, and are successful professionals. Ms. Messina has been teaching for, you really want me to say 40 years?
41, actually.
40.
Married for 40, teaching for 41.
And you started when you were 2 years old.
Yes, I did. I was 10.
And we'll be retiring in this December. And, you know, I'll just go far enough to say they're going to miss you.
Yes, and I'm going to miss them, but I don't want to hear that alarm clock anymore. Alarm clock.
And let me present this to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, that's always a nice thing to do. I enjoy that. All right, the next thing on the agenda is a public hearing for the annexation request for Autumn Lakes.
Good evening. So as the screen is coming down, you'll see a map of the request area for annexation 2018-01. That is the case number. The ordinance before you tonight is ordinance 2018-16. This is a request for a voluntary annexation for 105 acres located at 605 Parks Village Road and Zero Bun Road. At the September 5th, 2017 meeting, the board directed the clerk to investigate sufficiency for the annexation, and the town clerk certified sufficiency was met on September 22nd. At the October 2nd board meeting, we set the hearing for tonight, and tonight we're bringing the case before you for the consideration of annexation. Condition number 7 of the special use 2017-02 permit states the development shall be annexed into town limits prior to any approval for final plats. And in your agenda packet that was attachment 7 is the special use permit. I'll refer to that several times in the next few minutes. So the discussion before the board tonight is whether or not to annex the proposed area. And if the board is interested in the annexation, a motion should be made to annex the proposed area effective immediately. The policy analysis for the comprehensive plan defines the area as a medium density residential, which is an overall density of 3 to 4 units per acre. And it's a housing type of single family detached duplexes and townhomes and also multiple family dwellings. The transportation plan shows for the Old Bun from Shepherd School Road to Corral Court as a 2-lane curb and gutter with wide lanes and sidewalks on both sides of the roadway, and a 2-lane road with wide paved shoulders from there to the planning jurisdiction. And the special use permit that I've mentioned earlier has conditions relating to the transportation improvements, such as a fee in lieu for the turn lanes at the intersection of 97 and Old Bun Road and Old Bun Road and Shepherd School Road. Additional right-of-way will be dedicated along Old Bun Road at the time of final plat to increase the right-of-way to a minimum of 100 feet along the development. For the Greenway Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan, corridor number 2 will cross the parcels at the northern boundary line, and the special use permit has conditions listed for the construction timeline and the trailhead connections to the subdivision. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan has not yet been created. However, the special use permit lists conditions for recreation amenities such as private trails and a playground. The water and sewer allocation policy, the total requested allocation for the special use permit was 264,000 gallons per day. An allocation will be handled at the time of final plats for up to 200 dwellings per the final plat. For the fiscal analysis, I did include in attachment 6 an approximate cost benefit analysis, and the result is positive. A more definitive and accurate reflection of cost and revenue can only occur once the site is fully developed. Staff is recommending approval of ordinance 2018-16. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Looks like we don't have any questions for you, Julie.
All right.
All right, I will, at this point, since we've heard the staff report, I will ask for anyone who would like to speak in favor of first, and then after that, I'll ask anyone who would like to speak in opposition or anyone who would like to speak at all. At this point, again, anyone would like to speak in favor of this public hearing or the annexation? All right, hearing none, I will ask for anyone who would like to speak in opposition. Apparently, no one wants to speak. Does anyone want to speak at all? All right, then we'll close the public hearing, turn it over to the planning board, and no, we won't turn it over to the planning board. Thank you for correcting me. No, this picks up later, I think. Anyway, all right, moving along. Your
proclamation.
Do what? Yeah, the item number 5 is the proclamation. You want to have a vote on this other one first, right? No, no, just the proclamation. Gotcha. All right, here we go. All right. Proclamation of Geography Week and GIS Day, November 12th to November 18th, 2017. Whereas Geography Awareness Week is November 12th through the 18th, 2017, and Geographic Information Systems, GIS Day, is November 15th, 2017, and whereas geography is a common language that strengthens decision-making for governments, communities, non-governmental organizations, and businesses all over the world, connecting people, regions, and systems, and GIS plays a crucial role in managing projects such as sign, sidewalk, cemetery, and downtown inventories, long-range planning and land use, greenways and transportation, and site selection for new fire stations, and whereas having a dedicated day of GIS activities at Town Hall for students, citizens, and government leaders demonstrates the benefits of GIS in a unique and concentrated way. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Commissioners of the Town of Zebulon, do hereby proclaim November 12th through November 18th, 2017 as Geography Week, and November 15th, 2017 as GIS Day, adopted this 6th day of November 2017. Okay. Now, moving right along to...
We'll need a motion for that, please.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You sure will. All right. To accept this proclamation, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Made second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. All right, public comment period. Do we have anybody sign that? Still nobody wants to speak. This is amazing. All right. Now, the item number 7 is the consent agenda.
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion to it? All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, moving right along. Aha, somebody else going to speak now. Chris, you have the floor for fire facility plan review. You and I believe the gentleman named Paul Brooks, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to all of you. You may recall that back in 2008, the town purchased some land for a substation for the fire department that has been remained vacant since that date. And as our development has began to pick up in the last couple of years, the idea of Our fire station facilities, what do we need and where do we need them to be, has come up, and we even discussed it some at our last retreat as well. To that end, the town has contracted with Brooks Innovative Solutions to help guide us through this process of determining what our facility needs are related to the fire department and help us guiding some really informed decisions to be proactive in our needs currently and future needs. So tonight, Mr. Paul Brooks is here to give you an overview of the project and have some dialogue with you about what to expect. So I'll invite him to come on up.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to take a little bit of your valuable time here. And I just intend to do an introduction and introduce myself. But there we go. Okay. My name is Paul Brooks. I've spent 43 years in the fire service, and most of my career was in Greensboro, North Carolina. I retired there with 35 years service as assistant chief, chief of staff, and a big part of my career was operations oriented, but also the planning function and working with organizations like planning directors and planning departments, and who are oriented to think critically and to help provide you with information to make good decisions. That's my role in this project. Some of my other experiences that are probably useful or beneficial to a project like this. Greensboro was a beta test site agency for international accreditation. I became involved in that process in 1993, and when I retired from Greensboro, I was appointed and served as CEO for the Center for Public Safety Excellence, with offices in Washington, international organization, the only organization in the world that accredited fire departments. That's not the valuable piece of it. Is for an agency to become accredited, they have to answer a lot of critical questions. What's the hazard and risk in the community? What's the need that drives the resources? And what are the service demands that are calling on the system? So that's kind of what I've been brought into this project here, is to help you get good empirical information to make decisions, maybe short-term, maybe long-term in nature, but it's to go ahead and get the process started. There's 4 major objectives of this study. We're going to look backwards at our historical experience, and we're looking at a 10-year period, and we've actually already started this process, but for the whole purpose of trying to develop information to project future demand for service, future growth, and where that may be. Obviously, the world changed since the original fire station was built and the station that they're currently located in. The development in the community has obviously changed and shifted areas of the town or around the town, and the location of the property that you purchased with some future thought towards substations. Development has actually changed, economy's shifted, and changed the whole look of the world out there right now. So we're going to look backwards 10 years at growth and service demand so that we can look forward, hopefully a similar period of time, to make future projections about demand for service. And the whole purpose is to kind of start building a plan, a facility plan, but that deals with everything it takes to do that, to give you good information about timing, investment, and the issues that surround and what the outcomes of any changes in service or deployment may result in. We're going to obviously look at the current facility. We're going to compare that against prevailing industry standards, any requirements or regulations that you may be subject to as well, for the whole purpose of making recommendations in the future to help you look at future service delivery. And that'll all be put together in a fire facility plan. It'll be my job to help facilitate your adoption process of that, to make sure that you're informed about the content of that and the recommendations that are included in it. Critical to that process is the stakeholder engagement. We recognize that. Your staff has recognized that and made that part of the scope of work. And we've already begun the process. I've already done a local orientation with the chief and his key staff members. This tonight is part of that process, informing you, giving you an overview, and opening the door to soliciting input. We certainly are engaging the firefighters in the department and the department management, as well as other people who have critical information or knowledge awareness. We've already met with the planning folks and collecting a lot of great data from them. We've engaged the county and the emergency services folks over there so that we have a broad range and pretty significant diversity in the sources of our information. We have and will develop, we've already started developing a local team that will work with me and my folks to be able to do the study. We'll be doing regular and frequent briefings with them. Beyond the 4 major objectives, this just gives you a little more information about the detail of the scope of the study, the depth that we'll be going to. The whole point of this, and I'm not going to read this slide to you, and obviously you can read it yourself, but the whole point is to give you empirical information to make informed decisions and to do it in a way that gives you time to prepare, plan, and react so that hopefully we're not dealing at any point in a period or point of crisis. In the study, we'll document as best we can. Again, I'll repeat, growth issues as well as service demand issues, identify hazards and risk in the community, and put together short-term and long-term recommendations for you to look at and evaluate. The project timeline, as I said, we've already gotten started with our local team and briefing out some of the fire department folks, and we're continuing to seek input from them. We'll be doing surveys with them as well to get more information, concerns, or issues. Tonight's briefing with you starts off the elected officials and senior leadership engagement. We're already working on system performance issues. The chief has provided the 10 years of historical data. I do want to compliment your fire chief and his team and staff. The data that have already been provided is very detailed, very complete. I think that we're going to have a good quality project because we're getting good information in on the front side. We're looking at finishing the project up about mid-January. This is to help roll any recommendations into your budget consideration and budget cycles, either in the coming session or in future years. What should you expect out of this, and what am I trying to bring? We want to document actual performance for service objectives. We want to publish information that you can use, again, to make informed decisions. We want you to be able to make those decisions based on real empirical data that includes analysis of both growth, which generates service demand, and then the capacity of the department to be able to satisfy those service demands, and where can we make improvements in those. The bottom line here is that last piece. We want you to be able to answer some pretty simple questions out of this whole complex process. Where do we deploy resources at for emergency services, in this case fire? And frequently that's the easier question to answer. You probably anecdotally already have some ideas in your mind, and I'm sure in the system. The more complex questions, and the ones that your constituents will look to you to answer, is not just the where but the when, and that becomes the financial and the budget considerations as well. It's a big resource issue to consider spread out over time, but also the why. You know, why are we deploying the resources that we are, and what's the expected outcomes of those? So this process should help you answer all of those questions. So that's kind of the overview. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them of me at this time.
Okay, board, is there any questions of Mr. Brooks? Okay, seeing no questions, it sounds like we're going to be hearing from you again pretty soon on this, and you know, hopefully we can get our plan rolling with Chris. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening. Okay, this is one we've all been waiting for. Bobby, you and Keith both can come forward if you want to. This is audit presentation?
Yeah.
We hadn't heard one of these in a year, so, you know, lay it on us, Bob.
Feels like it was just yesterday, but we have completed another audit. I think the opinion date was the 26th of October for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. So Keith Joyce from Joyce & Company is here, as well as Sheldon Ennis. I'll turn it over to Keith. I won't steal all his thunder like I have before. But when he's done, feel free to ask any questions of either one of them or me. With that being said, I'll turn it over to Keith, and he'll share. Y'all have the CAFR that I just brought up to you earlier, and the audit highlights, the little handout that he gave earlier. So if you have any questions, I'll be here.
Thank you, Bobby. Mr. Joyce, it's certainly a pleasure to see you again this year.
Good evening.
We have all been waiting for this.
Pleased to be with you again tonight. I've been told many times if you ever have an exciting audit presentation, it's probably not a good thing. The good news is tonight, this is very boring. To start off, you've got a couple of documents there. We'll come back to in a second, audit highlights, and what we call a governance letter. What I mean by boring is there are no findings. There's nothing in your audit report itself, which would be a material weakness or significant deficiency. Haven't had any of those in the last 3 to 4 years here anyhow. You have no management letter, which is the less severe items that are more like suggestions or improvements that you can make. So a thoroughly clean audit opinion. The items you do have there, and I know you just got the CAFR tonight. As Bobby said, if you go through this later, you got about 100 pages of data. We boiled down into about 10 or 15 bullets here to simplify things. But just some of the major highlights that we typically do on this audit highlight sheet. Going through your cash balances, you see your cash balance, your general fund balance, your unassigned fund balance, all increased by roughly the same amount. Your cash went from $7.7 million in the prior year to 8.8. Your total fund balance, to skip down the line, increased from 8 million to 9.2 million roughly. Your unassigned fund balance increased from 5.8 million in the prior year to almost 7.1 million in the current year. And your actual increase in your total fund balance was $1,159,000. So all very positive financial indicators. To jump back up, your governmental net fixed assets, $18.6 million this year as compared to $17.4 in the prior year. A big portion of that is developer contributions for streets and highways. Going on down to water and sewer fund, we still have on the sheet. The water sewer fund obviously is sort of a non-entity anymore. The debt is the main reason that fund is being kept open, or one of two main reasons. That debt will be paid off during this fiscal year as far as the bonds that were issued prior to the merger. The other reason, of course, you're still collecting some fees for the city of Raleigh, and that's being treated as basically a pass-through item. The ad valorem tax increases, you'll see there your taxes increased roughly 20% from last year to this year, going from $4,537,000 to $5,475,000. Your overall valuation subject to tax went up from $859 million to $932 million. And your overall collection percentage stayed basically constant, went from 99.7 to 99.6, which are very high collection ratios. All good items. Your long-term debt, you'll see at the bottom, decreased from $4,049,000 the prior year to $3,679,000 for the governmental debt. And you'll see you had $85,000 in the water sewer bond still outstanding at year end, which will be your final payment. Just some other notes there at the bottom. As I mentioned earlier, you have an unqualified or clean opinion. Your CAFR for the June 30th, 2016 year received the Certificate of Achievement and Excellence in Financial Reporting from the GFOA. That was the 24th consecutive year the town received that. As I've told you many times, that's probably 12 to 15% of the towns in the country get this in any given year. You've gotten it for 24 straight, and this one will be submitted for that also. Any questions on those or any of the data that you may have had a chance to glance through in the CAFR, I'll be glad to address. And like I said, you're welcome to always contact me or Bobby if questions come up later on.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
The one other item you've got here is what we call the governance letter. This is a letter that we issue each year directly to the board, basically to tell you that there were no problems in performing the audit. The staff were cooperative, gave us your books, your financial records. There was no opinion shopping, nothing of that nature involved. The only thing of real significance in this is that during the current year, you did implement what's called GASB 73, which is a new governmental accounting standards. And effectively, your full accrual financial statements, and not to get real technical with the exhibit numbers and so forth, but exhibits 1 and 2, which are the first 2 exhibits encompassing the operations of the town, now show the LEO separation allowance at its full estimated liability in future years. And that was a requirement of the National Accounting Boards for this year. And there was an impact of that of $348,000 to the town financials, but that is not a cash impact. It's simply a prior period adjustment and a future liability is the best way to explain that, I think.
I guess I understand part of that.
And if you don't, I'll be glad to try to rehash it again.
Anyway, board have any questions of Mr. Joyce? Well, what do you propose that we do with all this extra money that we have?
There are lots of future items to be.
You don't think we need a big party for the whole town?
I wouldn't suggest that.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate
have a great evening.
you and Bobby, all your hard work. Okay, where are we, boys? Where do we get to? Oh, here it is. And we're going to old business now. SU 2018-02, Weaver's Pond Special Use Permit Amendment.
Good evening again. So on October 9th, you had a joint public hearing and the board received testimony and evidence for the amendment of the special use permit for Weaver's Pond. And the discussion before you tonight is whether or not to approve the amendment. If you have any questions, we do have to be careful how we proceed. Questions can only be used for clarification purposes of anything spoken to at the hearing. So if you have any questions at this time, I'm happy to go over any clarification points. If not, the staff memo speaks to the main points that were covered and I can go over that, or we can proceed with however you want to handle that.
Okay. All right. Does the board have any questions?
All these conditions of, that were added to have been agreed on by both sides, is that correct?
Say that again, both sides?
Well, you got conditions on the special use permit.
Yeah, the conditions are attachment 14. They are the proposed conditions by staff, but they have been agreed to by the developer. And at the hearing, the one condition, number 60, that was in contention, they pulled their condition, and so the proposed conditions are the conditions as written by staff. And the planning board did recommend approval of staff's conditions. So that condition number 60 was to keep the water boosters, the individual water boosters due to the water pressure.
In other words, there's been no changes since the last time we heard this.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any further questions or comments? And your pleasure.
Well, I'll make a motion then, make sure we get it right, that we adopt SU 2018-02 with the conditions as recommended by the planning staff.
All right, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
I'm just going to stand up here for a minute.
Will you,
So you're gonna be there.
would you stay up there for the, for what I tried to get us a vote on earlier tonight? The ordinance 2018-16 annexation Autumn Lakes request?
Yes, so
Thank you.
you heard the public hearing just a few moments ago, about a half an hour ago. I'm assuming you don't want me to go through the presentation again.
I don't think that's
But the request before you is whether or not you want to annex the 2 parcels of the 3 for Autumn Lakes. And
Well, again, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-16, annexation of Autumn Lakes request.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further comments? All in favor? Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, we're going to new business, and this is board appointments for the Board of Adjustments. What you got, Lisa?
We have James Mitchell, who is interested in serving on the Board of Adjustment. We have an in-town vacancy on the Board of Adjustment. He currently lives at 101 East MacGyver Street and is in the process of building a home in Weaver's Pond.
Okay, this is only one, right? Is that what you said? Okay. What's your pleasure, guys?
I make a motion, we appoint James Mitchell to the Board of Adjustments.
Second.
Made and second. Any questions? Comments? All those in favor? Okay, thank you very much. All right, 2 more things on the agenda here. Board comments. Dale?
Well, the comment I would like to make is to second what Don said earlier about the loss of Ann Matheny, and has been a really good friend for many, many years. And certainly our condolences and our prayers and thoughts go with Bob and his family and at this time. So that's my comment for tonight.
Okay, very appropriate. Curtis?
I don't
Don't have any? Beverly? Ian?
Nope.
Will?
Don't forget.
Oh, yeah, don't forget to vote
Yeah, y'all.
tomorrow. Polls open at 6:30.
That's what I was gonna say, the big day is tomorrow for these 2
Right.
folks here.
I'm glad y'all are running instead of us. But you won't have any cold weather tomorrow, so
That's
that's
very
good.
true. No cold weather. Maybe it won't rain, I don't know. Again, I don't have any comments other than, you know, again, our thoughts and prayers are with Bob and his family. It's a trying time for them all, but they will come through it, and everybody will come out okay, I'm sure. All right, anything else, guys? Being adjourned.
Well, what about managers?
Oh, I'm sorry, manager. I'd rather just pound the gavel and get rid of you, Joe. I'm sorry.
All right, several public service announcements. This Thursday, the town will celebrate Veterans Day. We'll hold that at the community center. Breakfast will be served at 8:30, and our featured speaker is Zebulon resident Brigadier General Alan Boyette. Next Tuesday, the strategic plan, the citizen engagement for the strategic plan, also known as Zebulon 2030, which is going to be the blueprint of how Zebulon develops into the future and what services it offers. That citizen engagement meeting is next Tuesday at the community center from 6:30 to 8:30. Anyone and everyone is welcome to attend. As you heard earlier tonight in the proclamation, the town will celebrate GIS Day on November 15th of next week down in Town Hall. Julie, you want to show off some of the swag we're going to offer? We got
Bracelets, we've got face tattoos, we have some Post-it notes, I've got some pencils, some GIS Day buttons. We're gonna go all out.
There you have it. The Zebulon Farm Fresh Market, while it has closed for the season in front of Town Hall, the market continues, and the first iteration that you'll see of that is at the Holiday Market, which will be at the Zebulon Community Center on Saturday, November 18th from 9 till 3. The Farm Fresh Market is also participating in the Chamber of Commerce activities at the Holiday Pop-Up Market Saturday, December 2nd from 10 until 4, and that is going to be on Sycamore Street, where we actually close off Sycamore Street. That holiday pop-up market is part of the kickoff for all of the holiday events. Friday, December 1st from 5:30 to 7:30, have pictures with Santa here in Town Hall, and then we finish off that weekend, Sunday, December 3rd at 2 p.m. with the kickoff of the annual Christmas parade. And with that, I'm done.
All right. Are you sure you're done? Okay.
I'll make a
I'm
motion
done.
to
What do you
adjourn.
think? Oh, I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.